Hello there, you're watching and listening to another Scoutcast on www.fantasyfootballscout.co.uk, and my name is Mark.
My name's Jonty.
My name's Andy.
Good evening, gentlemen. How do I find you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, nice and recovering from the storms that have been brewing this week across the UK.
It's a bit chilly, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I've just had to turn my heat off because it will get pick up on the mic. So over the course of the next hour, there could be icicles hanging from this oversized nose. But have you suffered with the storm then? Has your roof blown off, Jonty?
No, a bit of our fence came in, and but yeah, no, we haven't been whisked off Wizard of Oz style into the ether. So I think it's past now. But yeah, lots of flooding where I am. I live in Somerset, so it's a bit of a big lake around me.
Okay, well the doors haven't come off, the wheels haven't come off on our game weeks. Andy, how was your game week this week? How are you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Game week was okay. Another captain fail. I think I scored 54 altogether. The biggest annoyance, I suppose, for my team was I sold Huth, which was a plan to get rid of a Leicester player.
Wow.
Who would have come off for me. So that's a bit of a rough there for me.
We got a couple of Huth stories coming up, including one extraordinary betting story, which I forwarded to you guys before the Scoutcast. I still can't believe it. I thought it was spam at first. More on that later on. We're going to talk about that in Rough with the Smooth. We're going to look at our game weeks up before that. And then we got some community questions, and coming up in the community questions, we're going to talk about how we break the template, how we can make up ground, because all three of us have kind of struggled in recent weeks. We're going to look at our game week history over the last 6 or 7 weeks. I've got some stats on that to go through. Got some things to surprise Jonty with on that part. I haven't queued that one up, so brace yourself, Jonty. I'm looking at your team in particular. We're going to talk about Aguero. Do we sell him? Game week 27 and game week 30. The blanks are coming up. We know about the game week 27 ones. Do we dare sell Aguero? I don't even want to, having gone through the agony of having to get him, I don't want to even entertain that idea, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about Leicester and Southampton defences, plenty to invest in. Suddenly defenders are keeping clean sheets, it's happening. And then we're going to look ahead to the game week and talk about our Fantasy Island list, our clean sheets, and talk about our transfers and captains as we always do. Okay, Jonty, we've touched on Andy's game week. How did you get on then?
Well, I thought I did okay. I mean, back in the day when I started doing this, getting 60 points, having goals, assists, and clean sheets coming out of your team would be like cause for celebration. And then I get a big red arrow and 40,000 places.
This is exactly it. I'm going to touch on that in a minute. I know it's extraordinary, isn't it? Because I got 65, so I got 10 over the average, and I got a red arrow as well. I just, what is going on here? I mean, I think it's probably likely we've got, as I've said a few weeks ago when I got Aguero, I think we've just slotted our teams comfortably into the template, and now we're struggling because of that. We can't make any ground. Is that what it is, Jonty?
Well, I think it's partly that. I think it's this season. The players that are exceptionally well owned are doing very well, but they're in everyone's team. So your Mahrez, for example, did really well, and Aguero. I mean, he got a goal, so it's not great. But the other thing was captaincy. The on paper best captaincy for me was Kane, and he blanked for me. Yeah. If I'd have gone Aguero, I would only be 8 points better off. I mean, 8 points is good, but it's not great. But I mean, my transfer during the week was something we're going to come on to, is preparing for the blank game weeks. I'm looking at my teams, looking at Ryan Bennett, who's not playing for Norwich, and then realising I've got quite a lot of money in the bank, so I thought I'd kind of splash out on Van Dijk from Southampton, and who got me a clean sheet instantly, and we'll talk about Southampton coming up, but I foresee many more clean sheets there, so I think I've got a good source of points there.
Well, let's face it, they've got 5 in a row, so...
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
There's only so many they can keep getting, obviously, but yeah, he's a good sign, and I looked at him as well. I think I fancy Southampton. As I said to you before the cast started, I thought they were kind of maybe outside the top 3 for clean sheets, but I did fancy them as 4th or 5th rank for a cleanie. West Ham away from home, I've got a threat. I don't know, it was a terrible conditions, and even though they went down to 10 men, when I saw that I thought, I think the Van Dijk cleaning might go, but they held on. They're a good solid unit, and what was interesting, and we'll talk about the Hampton later on, Koeman rolled back to the 3-5-2 having gone to 4 men at the back at Arsenal, so that was quite interesting. There might be repercussions to that. Andy, I mean, you went Sanchez with the captain, so you took that risk, you had Kane and didn't go for it. I mean, you must have gone into Sunday thinking, well, if I can get a goal or assist or some bonus out of Sanchez, I'm going to be doing all right. You ended up with 54 points. you got to be disappointed. I mean, did you watch the game with Sanchez?
I couldn't watch the first half, but yeah, I saw the second half, and to be honest, he was pretty awful. Balls are coming to him. At one point, he couldn't even control the ball. Now there was one chance I saw him create where he played a really good ball into the box, and there was just nobody there to get on the end of it. But generally, I wasn't that impressed, and the captain probably won't be going near him anytime soon. I don't know if he's just rusty or
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, he looked so lively, hadn't he, in the first 2 appearances back, and it looked like, okay, a point to imminent here. And I fancied the Bournemouth game as well. I mean, I captained him in Ultimate on the Sunday, and I really thought I'd get something out of that. And I had Ozil, I could have captained him, and I didn't do it. I mean, you tried. I mean, I think Sanchez is a great differential. He's got that double point potential every week, but I don't know, I agree, he looks a bit ring rusty, which is a bit of a shame because we need him to kick in if we're going to break this template up. We're going to talk about that in detail later on, but I think you got some points to make on captains in particular, haven't you? I mean, we all failed this week, and we know it's a big factor, but it's not quite clear how big until you start looking at some of the numbers, and I think you've had a quick delve into that, Andy.
Yeah, so it's actually Apple Bonkers, one of our regulars on the site, modern contributor, who brought it to my attention just how often we're getting points from our captain. So I had a quick look. Or
not, as the case may be.
Or not for most of us, yeah. So this is basically taking into account anybody who you've captained who's got at least 5 points, so an assist or maybe a clean sheet yellow card because somebody captained Rojo. So for us three, out of the 25 weeks, Mark you've only had points 8 times from your captain.
So this is more than 2 points 8 times?
More 5 or more.
5
so
or
at least
right.
an assist or more.
Right.
Okay, so you've had 8. I've had 11, and John T's on 12. So John T's nearly half there, getting points from his captain every week.
Okay, what about some of the top players and how they've been doing? Is that been a big difference?
Yeah, well, so for some of them it definitely has. I mean, I looked at the top 5 in the Fantasy Football Scout League, and a couple of them actually got triple captain on Aguero when he got 25. But the smallest there for the top 5 is 14 times got points from him. And Chris Rigdon, the guy that's currently leading the Fantasy Football Scout League, he's on
6th in the world, ain't he?
Yeah, he's doing really well.
So how many times has he got more than 5 points?
16 times.
That's it. And we know it's important, the captaincy. I mean, what hurt me early in the season is my faith in Aguero, which let me down until that game week 8 haul. I just stuck with him, and then that was one of my reasons of being reluctant to getting him back, because I know it's just so difficult when you've got Aguero to take it and put it on another player. And Kane is a similar situation with him. He's hot and cold at times, isn't he? We'd like to think he's consistent, but he does have those home matches where he does everything but score. And there's other players in that Tottenham team who can get goals, as we've seen. So he let us both down, didn't he, John T? I mean, he looked a good bet, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did a bit of research a couple of weeks ago. The Gargatron tool, I had a look, and that basically assesses how much kind of wasted points, how many points I could have got if I'd have got my highest score each week.
That'll kill you, John T. Look at that.
But the interesting thing about, mine was huge, absolutely massive golf. It was something like 300 points. It was absolutely ridiculous. But I think what it did is it highlighted how this season has gone, and it's because players like us that have been playing for a while, we've got our tried and tested. Well, hey, look, so and so's got a good fixture. Look at these underlying stats. We're looking at all of these things, and some weeks I went through a period. My highest scorer for about 3 or 4 weeks was Butland for Stoke. Now I'm never going to captain Butland, but if I had, I'd have got 10 points, 9 points, 12 points, doubling that each week. But I wasn't. I was going for your likes of Özil, who let me down that week, or Kane or Lukaku. Just happened to be the weeks they let me down. Aguero has been my best captaincy this season, and this week showed I didn't put the captaincy on. I put Kane. I thought Kane had a better fixture. I still think he had a better fixture. Neither of them had a great game, but as I said, it wasn't that much more in it. But nevertheless, Aguero did get some points. He is still consistent.
We touched on this before, though, didn't we? Do you remember that Ghost Ship team who had Vardy captain and just left it on Vardy? And obviously, in that run of 11 goals in 11 games, or scoring 11 games rather, they did exceptionally well. And meanwhile, we were just moving the captaincy, or I was moving the captain off, put it on Aguero and moving it off him once or twice in the first 10 game weeks, and suffered as a result of that. So we know it's massively important, but this is why, I'm particular, out of the three of us, I'm particularly struggling with the captaincy, which is why I was, one of the 17 reasons that I named, I was worried about getting Aguero back. But then when I tried to take off Aguero, that didn't work either. It's an interesting one, and I think game week 27 that we're going to talk about later on, we can't turn to Aguero for that game week. Maybe that'll be a turning point. Maybe that will show us that, maybe putting it on Payet or a player like that, someone a little different, could work for us, because at the moment that's what's letting us down.
I mean, I think what it shows is, I mean, you've been playing fantasy football longer than either of us two, and obviously you run a site about fantasy football, so you're steeped in all those stats and that experience as well, and it's shown in your captaincy decisions because you're going for the sensible ones. And this is the season where being sensible with your captain is not the way to go. But the other flip side is when you start taking risks, like Andy did this week. Well, let's go for Sanchez. It doesn't work. But then there were people, as we'll find out, who captained the likes of Firmino. But is he going to do that each week? Well, probably not. Are they getting lucky? So is this the season where luck finally prevails over skill?
I don't know. I mean, I think I looked at Firmino. I couldn't get him in my team. I had him in the ultimate team, and I still put the captaincy on Kane, even in my ultimate team. That's twice now I've not put it on Firmino and regretted it because he's returned double figures. Yeah, I mean, all credit to them. Let's get to rough with the smooth then. Let's see some of these people who had smooth game weeks and who did just that.
Yeah, well, I mean, here we go. I mean, Woi and Japan Boy, they captained Özil. So Özil's done nothing for weeks, and then they captain him on the week he does something. So it could be patience is a virtue. So there's a skill.
Do they have Aguero? Do they have Kane? Did they do it in the
They don't specify, but I mean, I'm sure they have at least one or two of those good options. So Lahi and Ivanovic, they captained Firmino, another one there. I mean, I was tempted to get Firmino in for Josh King, but if I had, I definitely would have benched Mahrez. So it would have made no difference to me. But anyway, so on with these moves. Laterizer, he did the good move. He saw Payet and he just benched him, and he got in. He upgraded Westwood to Mahrez, so he got in the player for a tough fixture. So once again, he's not looking at the fixtures at all. And then Hypnos. Now this is good. This is a nice one for us because this is looking at form and fixtures. Hypnos brought in Sigurdsson for Yaya Toure. That's a great. And he benched Payet as part of that. Now that's a good move because he's looked at the stats, he's looked at the form, he's looked at the fixture, he's looked at that for Yaya Toure. He's made a decision. That's the kind of move that I like to see that does well because that's the kind of move I would make. The other lads who are captaining Özil after he's done nothing or getting in and captaining Firmino. Tip my hat to them. I can't compete with them.
You've got to wonder. I mean, is it the fact that we're kind of in a comfortable position? We're just around the 200,000 mark. I mean, you're even better than that. You're around the 135,000 mark. Maybe we're like, well, we don't need to take risks. Maybe if we were 500,000 or even in the million, we would be doing that. We would be throwing it on Firmino. We've seen Granville, who struggled this year, started to throw the captaincy on Rooney and players like that. It's much easier to take a risk when you're driven to it, whereas I think we're just in this horrible, comfortable position where we're just treading water. Well, and it doesn't promote us taking risks, does it?
Well, I do what I do every week, whether it's seen as a risk or not. I captain who I think is going to get me the most points.
That's not a bad idea.
And so, I mean, back in the season, I know I got Wilfred Bonney in. Now, everyone was captaining, say, Kane or Lukaku, and I decided a couple of weeks to captain Bonney. Now, I took some risks there. 1 week it paid off, 1 week it didn't. At the start of the season, I decided to captain Sturridge. Not Sturridge, sorry, Benteke. Sturridge is very injured, but Benteke I decided captaining, and he got me in.
Yeah, I remember that well. It was a very fortunate goal.
So I have done that.
Yeah.
I'm not really thinking it in terms of is that a risk, is it a boring player, is it an exciting? It's more like who do I think will score the most? It just so happens I happen to think that the ones that score the most aren't.
So, fair enough. Have we got any rough tales to cheer me up?
Yeah, we've got some rough. So this will cheer us up. So Flanny Alves, he took out Lukaku and Özil, so he dumped 19 points. Floor hit, so there's even more, and he got Vardy and Sanchez in, both failed. He actually fell from 50,000th to 100,000th.
Yeah, but he's got Vardy early for his good run, isn't he? I mean, we're all going to try and get Vardy for game week 26 onwards.
But now he's got to play catch up. He's gone from 50,000 to 100. I mean, that's so. Yeah. Cheltenham, these names, Cheltenhamshire, la. He did exactly the same. Plus, as part of that, he benched Mahrez. So I've got
to say, at this point with Mahrez, I had him on the bench till about 11:15. I was out just gone out for breakfast with the kids. 11:15, I had Mahrez on a bench, and I just sat there and thought, I've done the wrong thing there. Payet was in my team. I swapped them both, and yeah, there you go. I got away with it. I keep doing that. I keep missing like real catastrophes with Mahrez. I've done it twice where I've put him on the bench until late on, then swapped him because so I can sympathise with him there. I really can.
Never bench him. So FTNC, he swapped out Lukaku, Stanislas and Baines out for Naismith, Sanchez and Simpson for a hit, and as a result he played Naismith over Mahrez because he was playing the fixture, and Norwich were against a really bad Villa side, and Mahrez was against sore-away Man City. And finally, Samuel, one of our community regulars, he played a Merino. So you can associate with this, but he played Merino over Huth. Yeah. So once again, he's done the sensible thing, and it hasn't worked out.
Well, I'll throw another one in there. Granville, dear old Granville, who can't do any right this season. Huth was his third sub. He played Dawson for West Brom at Newcastle. Fairly understandable. Charlie Daniels at home to Arsenal. Maybe, because I suppose he's hoping Daniels is going to get a pen or assist. Not good. I didn't see a cleanie in that one. But he played Van Arnold. He played Van Arnold over Huth. That was a risky one. Van Arnold, of course.
He was doing the sensible thing.
Yeah, that was a tight decision though.
And I think he got in Kane, didn't he? He got rid of Costa. Brilliant differential for someone who's doing really badly. And he got Kane in, who everyone's got. I mean, that's so he needs to go back to being taking risks, because that's a really
I guess he does, but it's just he's having no luck at all. And once it's rolling, it's just bad luck after bad luck. It's very hard to break out of it. So you got to feel for him. Here's an incredibly good luck story. I had an email a couple of days ago entitled "Rough with the Smooth," and I thought, this is going to be another FPL story. It kind of is. He said he had a decent game week, but nothing spectacular. But Mark Goodison won 11,000 in. And we wouldn't normally talk about betting, but he won 11,000 on Sky Bet. And this is extraordinary, right? These are scorecasts. He went Lingard, first scorer, and 1-1 for United, 60-1. He won 600 quid on that. He went Ozil, first scorer, and Arsenal to win 2 or 3-0, 40-1. So he won 400 quid on that. Here's the big one. He went Who first goal and Leicester 3-1, 1,000-1, and he put a tenner on it. Unbelievable. 11 grand won out of that. What are the odds on getting 3 scorers and scorecasts correct in one game week? Absolutely incredible. I don't know how his FBL team is doing, but that is a tale. As I say, we don't talk about betting very often on here, but that was just ridiculous. I could not believe it. So that is a smooth of all smooth tales there from the game week. Community questions. I think we're going to start with this one about the template and how we climb the rankings. Before we start on this, I just want to talk about our last few game weeks, because I was looking at your team, Jonty, and I thought, well, you got Aguero before me. You got him in, I think, game week 21. So you made up ground on me. So I thought you must have had a good few green arrows. But when I looked at your history over since game week 17, so that's the last 9 game weeks, you've only had 3 green arrows. And I'm the same. I've only had 4 out of the last 9. But I expected it because I didn't get Aguero until 2 weeks ago. So I thought, well, I've suffered a couple of red arrows in those Aguero brace weeks. But I thought you were doing pretty well. Your green arrows did come during the Aguero brace, but around that you just struggled. And it's just because, it's because our teams are just so settled in this template, and it's looking very difficult to break out of it, isn't it?
Well, you mentioned that. I mean, the key thing there was captaincy. Over Christmas, I got the captaincy wrong every week. So I was always 10-20 points behind what I should have been if I'd have captained someone else over, because that was the red arrows. But then only 3 green arrows, but I shot up about 200 places or 200,000 places, but mainly because I got 1 excellent green arrow, and that was early doors Aguero, and that was the secret. So we think Aguero is template. He is now, but he wasn't then, and that was the key. And that's always been the key in fantasy football, is get the good players in before everyone else does. When they rattle off those goals like that, then everyone gets them in. Then they become template, and then your green arrows are not going to be as big. So that was the key there, is getting that in. But the thing is, Andy said before that I guess we shouldn't be moaning about all those red arrows, because, Andy, your theory is, had we not got Aguero, had we not settled on Ali and players like that, we'd have been
dropping even further. I mean, is that you still stand by that?
To a certain extent, I mean, there's always going to be those players that do well, which, you were saying when you were considering not getting Aguero that there will be other players that match him, and there will be, but it's much harder to figure out who they are, and and having enough transfers to get a different one in every week.
Yeah.
Because it's unlikely that someone's going to do it so consistently. So I do still think that, like, by not having Aguero, I would have dropped in rank. He's the one that's cut my half in rank at the end of the day. So, and I've just dropped Ozil, and I've just dropped 100k because I've not got him. So had I kept him, I would have kept, I wouldn't have jumped very high, but I probably wouldn't have, lost 100,000 places again. So now I'm playing catch-up with a player that's still scoring well. I took a risk on that's, I probably should get straight back in.
Yeah,
it's tough.
It's just so tough, and so who's got some questions on this? I think there's a few theories flying around here about how we do this, how we can climb up the rankings.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of questions. I mean, Daniel asked, how do we break the template? I mean, that can be rephrased, how do we climb up the rankings? We've got this template, big wall in front of us we've got to break through. And Stoke Mere Kipper, I mean, he very much echoes the kind of some of what we've been saying. He's saying, is it time to change tactics? So he's been doing exactly what he's been doing this year as he did last year. Now, he finished 512th last year, and his tactics are very similar to mine, probably both of yours as well. Is you pick a strong side with players you think will score a lot, so your likes of Aguero, etc., and then you put a sprinkling of differentials in. And then he usually plays a little bit by keeping his eye on mini league rivals as well. So I do a bit of that as well. So, so he's done exactly the same as that. Followed the same thing. He's now 600,000. So he's wondering, basically, does he need to change tactics? Start ignoring those around him. Does he need to stick with? And this is something about patience, really. Does he stick with tried and tested players like Mahrez and Özil? And then, but then it's a question of what do you do else? And if you've got too many of them, so if you've got all of the top-owned players, so let's have a look. Say last week. So the starting defenders, midfielders, forwards over game week 25. So these are the top-owned ones. So let's go over the top 10,000. This is from the FPL Discovery website. And they've said, the top starting forwards, Kane, in the top 10,000, 71%, 7 out of 10 started him. Aguero, same thing. Vardy, just 40, so 4 out of 10 there. And then you're looking at Özil. So Andy was saying, sold Özil, dropped 100,000. Well, here's why. The top 10,000, remember, these proportions kind of seep back through the ranks. So Arsenal, Özil, are the 74% of top 10,000 managers, and around half of all managers. So if Özil gets 10 points and you haven't got him, it's red arrow time. So we know you have to have some of these players to stop you going down. But if you have all of those players and they will do badly, or some, then once again you're just treading water. You need those differentials. So it's which ones to get. So I mean let's go to Andy first in terms of a good differential. I mean, for sure we've got ideas, but ideas of how to get up the rankings. We need a differential. We need a differential we can captain as well. Did you have any in mind, Andy?
Yeah, I think one that's probably in possibly both your minds would be Diego Costa. So he's only owned by 2.1% in the top 10k. For the last 4 game weeks, he's had the most shots out of all forwards. Now he's not up there. He's about 5th, I think, for shots on target compared to like Aguero and Kane. In terms of actual shots and big chances, he's right up there. He's in the top 1 and 3 out of all forwards. So he could be an option. And Chelsea's fixtures, as I think Christina pointed out on the site today, or yesterday, they don't get much better really. With Newcastle up next, that could be a good captain choice. The big question which you've asked on like the last 3 or 4 is which striker do you get rid of is probably the bigger question.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like Kane, Aguero, and then Vardy in game week 27. I don't see how you break that up. I just don't see it. I mean, Aguero and Kane are on penalties. Costa isn't. Costa's always 30 seconds from a yellow card, red card. Or an injury even. I don't know. I think I'd like to be able to take that risk. I really would. And I think if I was in Granville's situation or in outside the million, I think I might gamble. But where I am now, I don't know. I just don't see it. I just don't see that's an option.
But this is why you are where you are. And this is why I am where I am, and Andy is where he is, because we're too sensible. We're looking at this and we're thinking, Costa, 6.7% ownership. He's got Newcastle next. He's got a great set of fixtures. He looks the best captain choice the next game week, in a week where Aguero's facing Spurs. Kane is facing Man City. He looks an ideal player. He's absolutely ideal if you're looking to climb up the ranking. But we're not doing it because we're too worried about getting rid of Aguero or Vardy or Kane. We're not going to get rid of Kane. It's another one. Rooney, 10%, 24 attempts on goal by Wayne Rooney over the last 6 game weeks, bettered only by Aguero and Kane. So, 1 in 10 of all managers have him. So those that have been getting Rooney in, or got Rooney in, and it's not like Aguero, it's not like he's suddenly become template. So this is over the last 6 game weeks he's been banging these goals in and getting assists and bonus. And no one's biting. It's absolute dream.
Yeah, I know, but it's because...
Why aren't we getting him?
I look at it and think, well, look at the situation we've just had with Ozil and Mahrez, and then Ali even got an assist, but the previous week he did very well. These players are in our teams and they're in the template for a reason. It's because they're consistently scoring points. I don't like it. I've never have liked this. I always try to resist it. But I just think the risks are so great with these players. And when you look at the forward line, you're looking at, well, okay, getting rid of Kane or Aguero, who are the most prolific strikers in the Premier League, those two for me, are on penalties as well. And then you look at Vardy with his fixture list coming up after game week 27, who is the obvious replacement for Lukaku at that point. I think those 3 are nailed in. And I think your differentials then become down to having a 5th midfielder who's decent and then having the balls to go, right, I'm going to bench Ali or I'm going to bench Payet, which is tough. And that can hurt you, but I think that's the way you go with your differential. You're talking about Costa. Well, how about Oscar? Get Oscar in as your 5th mid if you've got the money, and then play him over Payet or Ali in 1 game week or 2. That's perhaps a way to do it. At least Oscar's on penalties, so you've got that. And then the rest of it is at the back. Now, I know there's not explosivity at the back. People think we're getting defenders are boring transfers. But I had a look, and what's interesting is since game week 19, so over the last 7 game weeks, the top scoring players overall, 4 of them have been defenders. We had Gabriel in game week 19, 19 points. Koscielny in game week 20, 15 points. Daniels game week 22, 18 points. And we've just had Hoop, 16 points. So before that, interestingly, there's only been 1 defender who was the top scorer in a game week. And that was Zumar, right back in game week 6. So up until game week 19, only Zumar, as a defender, had top scored. And then suddenly, defenders are starting to keep clean sheets. And obviously, in Hoop's case, and in Daniels and Koscielny and Gabriel, they got goals as well. Now, suddenly, no one wants to look at defence as the differential, but I think there is some mileage there. I think it is possible. If you want to pump money into defence, they're starting to get double figures. If you can find goal scorers and you get clean sheets. And clean sheets, we're going to talk about Leicester and Southampton defences. Look how consistent they've been. So I don't know. I don't see Costa up front or Rooney up front being the option. For me, it's the 5th mid and your defence.
Yeah, I mean, another option is something is blanks and double game weeks.
Yeah.
Now this is quite a few of the top ranked players at the moment have spent their trip. This is why they're top ranks. They've done a successful triple captaincy. So they've done that, done and dusted. They've maybe played bench boost already. Now us lot, who are really boring and sensible, this is fantastic for us.
Kept it enough, yeah.
It is, because we can plan ahead for these. So suddenly, in game week 27, suddenly those with more than 3 outfield Liverpool, Man City, Newcastle and Everton players are going to suddenly look at their thing on a Friday and go, oh my God, I've got to take some hits here because I'm not going to be able to get an 11 out. Or if they are getting an 11 out, they're down to their Ryan Bennett's or whoever it is down there. Whereas hopefully, us lot, we should be okay because we're looking at those fixtures. And that's going to be the same in game week 30, which is a far more complicated picture coming up. And there's been a good community article on this in recent weeks, which I do urge people to have a look at, which explains that a bit more. And reading that was one of the key reasons I got Van Dijk in, because
that was Pacino's article, which was superb. It came out last week, and actually I wrote an article for the Premier League today about game week 27, just tipping people off about, well, you've got to start looking at your team for game week 27 because you're not going to have Aguero, you're not going to have Lukaku. You're not going to have players, your Liverpool players and your Everton players, as I said. So, I was just forewarning people who perhaps don't read Fantasy Football Scout that they should start doing that. And interestingly, on the Twitter feed reaction to the article, a guy popped up and went, "Oh, this guy's wasted 500 words and hasn't even mentioned Game Week 30. I responded to him. Then I had a look further down, and it's Pochettino. He was on there on the Premier League Twitter feed having a go at me for not mentioning Game Week 30. And I thought to myself, who is this guy? Who is this guy on Twitter? I'll respond to him. What does he know? And he does know quite a bit. He's the one who wrote the article for us on Game Week 30. It's a great article. And, but the trouble is with that, there's so many variables, isn't there? I mean, it's at the moment we don't know too much about it. The article does look at the odds and it looks at the likelihood of teams having blanks in Game Week 30 as well, and it advises quite rightly that any transfers you make from this point on need to bear that in mind. And that's what you did with Van Dijk, wasn't it? Because you know that Southampton have got that fixture.
Yeah, they've got not only Game 27, they've got that Game Week 30. So we actually know it's one of the few, and we know that with Leicester as well. So not this week, but the following in Game Week 27, you're gonna have to drag me off Jamie Vardy that week.
Yeah.
Not because he's got great fixtures, a great fixture then. He's probably the best captaincy choice then. But that pales into insignificance compared to looking that he actually is guaranteed a game in Game Week 30. So if all the double game weeks from all of these blanks happen after them, Game Week 30 is going to be like decimated. But there I'll be, or there hopefully those listening and watching and those who follow the advice will be sitting there very happy with their Southampton defender, with their Leicester defender, with Mahrez, Vardy, and they've got captain choices.
The thing is, though, John T, Leicester and Southampton are doing pretty well at convincing everybody to get their defenders anyway. That's a bit of a problem for us because, we could have kept it up our sleeve, but when Leicester and Southampton are getting 5 clean sheets out of 6 or 5 in a row, everyone's onto it, aren't they now? So I don't think it's a big secret anymore. I don't think we've got much advantage of that. I am interested to see what happens in Game Week 27. I do. You look at it and think, okay, well, there's a few players here which I think, if you get set up correctly, they could work for us. I mean, Arnautovic has been out of form, but he's got a good fixture at home to Villa that week. A lot of people have sold him, but I think if you get him in, they've got some good fixtures and they've got that Game Week 27 good, strong home fixture. The West Ham players, if you've got Payet already, at home to Sunderland, he's going to be a captaincy candidate. Even Antonio as well, another differential there. And like you say, the Leicester defence at home to Norwich, you've got to think, well, that's got to be the way to go, and get Vardy and Mahrez as well. We're going to be prepared for it, and hopefully we're going to be okay for Game Week 27 and do pretty well. And you kind of hope that teams above us who may have played their chips, who might not be so aware, might fall into that trap, but I don't know. I don't think we can bank on that. We've got to hope that shakes things up, but I don't know. If it doesn't, I think we're just going to carry on just slipping up and down the rankings and staying around the 200,000 mark. What's your theory, Andy? I mean, you're making preparations for Game Week 27. Do you think it's going to be a turning point?
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah, I mean, I expect Game Week 30 is probably going to cause more issues to, players that aren't, on Fantasy Football Scout, etc. all the time. Because there's likelihood that there's going to be a lot more teams having blanks in that, and possibly our bigger players. So yeah, I've already started. So I took out Huth so I can get Vardy for Game Week 27. But other than that, I think right now it's going to sound really boring. I'm just going to do nothing this week because I want that extra transfer. So that's currently my plan, is to make sure that I've got 2 transfers. So when I do need to get rid of a few players, I can get rid of 3 for only a -4. So my current plan is to do nothing so that I'm hopefully prepared. And obviously not get rid of anyone right now who has no blank, because you could be shooting yourself in your foot there. Yeah,
no, that's true. We'll see. I mean, I think you're right. Game Week 30 could decimate things. I mean, depends on how the cup results go in a couple of weeks. We'll know more then about how it's going to affect things, and then probably around that time we'll have the double game weeks announced as well. And I think there's going to be some bumper ones. So I think there's some turning points around the corner which could help break the template up. Anything could happen. Aguero could get an injury after that. Big players could come to the fore who haven't, even someone like Hazard or certainly Sanchez could suddenly shake things up. We need it though, don't we? We need it because I think at the moment it's just settled to a simmer for a lot of us, and nothing's moving. And unless you really got the balls to go, right, I'm going to get Costa in for Kane, then you're just going to sit there and stagnate a bit, which is exactly what's happening to certainly me and John T. I know, Andy, you've been on the up and up recently. You've taken a few risks, but Jonty and I have just been, It's been pretty dull, and maybe we've asked for it by getting Aguero in the first place. I won't go back on about that. But Aguero, we're going to talk about it now, aren't we? Because some people are even consider selling him, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it was Christina on site asked who's going to sell Aguero, half jokingly, and then I kind of half jokingly said, "Yeah, I might." Thinking about it. Well,
not a chance.
Of course I won't. Of course I won't. But it did pass my mind. I'll tell you why. In game week 27, so my aim is also to save a transfer. My team's in good shape. I've currently got now. I could put an 11 out for 27 that I'll be happy with, because obviously I've got these nice defenders who are getting lots of points. So I was thinking, God, what if I went into that one with getting rid of, using my 2 free transfers for get rid of Kane and Aguero, and then just getting Costa and Vardy in, captaining one of them, and then so I've got that extra good striker that no one else has got, because no one's going to do that. And then perhaps the following week get Aguero back in. Because sometimes it's what you don't do rather than what you do, and this goes on to we've had some questions about patience as well. Pochettino again, but he was looking at the sheer volume of people who transferred out, Lukaku and Özil, and he's right. But they were actually figuring quite highly in the goals imminent tables and these types of things. They were bubbling over, and the patient people kept hold of them. But there was all these people who used the transfer to maybe get rid of them, for like Andy did for Sanchez. He's probably regretting that. I mean, because sometimes using a transfer can be the worst thing you can do. So if I use a transfer, 2 transfers, get Costa in, he gets me some points. Next week, get him out for Aguero. Aguero gets me some points. Well, have I really? I've done something a bit different, a bit unusual. It's maybe got me some points. Maybe it's this. That's the kind of thing we need to be looking at doing.
Interesting. You can do that because you've got the money in the bank, and the loss is no issue to you. And maybe that's the case with a lot of people. For me, a 0-3 or whatever I'd lose would probably be something I want to avoid. But in your scenario, and maybe we'll see Aguero sold in that game week. Maybe we will see him go down in price even. I don't see it. I think a lot of it though could depend on how he does in this game week against the Spurs defence. And this is where it really gets interesting, doesn't it? Because, we're going to talk about our captains later on, and we didn't go with Aguero this week. And I've got an inkling I'm not going to go Aguero again. And there's some stats on it against the Spurs team, because obviously his record against Spurs is absolutely sensational, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because what we're all remembering is last year, the fabled game week 8, where Aguero absolutely annihilated Spurs. And he completely turned around our all seasons. I was, in game week 7, I was ranked where I am now. In game week 8, I was in the top 7,000. That's how good that game week was. But it's a completely different Spurs defence. So if anyone thinks that Aguero has this inbuilt, incredible, magic voodoo quality of defeating Spurs, well, he doesn't. So the goal attempts conceded. This is the Spurs defence, game weeks 1 to 7 last season. They conceded 84 prior to going into that match. So last 7 matches this season, just 61. Goal attempts conceded in the box, 52 last season, and then just 37 this season. And it goes on like that, and it goes on. All of the stats, defensive stats, they're not conceding hardly any. And the Spurs defence going into that Aguero game was truly atrocious. The Spurs defence going into the Aguero game this week, really good. So it's a completely...
in the league. And the other factor here is we KDB calls, and they're missing him straight away, and Silva's probably going to miss the game with more ankle problems, which has been a weak spot for him for ages. So I don't see him playing. So without Silva and KDB, they're going to push Toure, I imagine, into the attacking midfield 3. He's looked completely abject recently. Doesn't look interested at all. I know that hurts you, John, in particular, because you've still got the Toure tattoo from 3 years ago. But I don't know. I just don't fancy City at all. I was looking at my defence going into this game week and going, well, I don't know if I can play Alderweireld at City. I tell you what, having seen the way who've tore them up on set pieces, and Alderweireld is, I think, the best defender at set pieces this season. I think he's had more goal attempts than anyone, and more penalty box touches than any other defender. I'm going to play Alderweireld because I don't know if City will score. I think Tottenham there could either go there and get a 0-0, which will suit them, or they'll even win that one, because they're certainly not going to be worried, having seen what Leicester did to them. I mean, Spurs can catch them on the break. They've got plenty of talent in that side, and I think City look like they're lacking ideas a bit. And I don't know. I just don't. I worry about it. I worry about City, and I haven't got Aguero in. I am worried that suddenly he's going to be. It's a one-man band at the moment for them, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. That's what I think. But this goes back to what we were saying earlier about taking risks. On paper, this is not the game week to captain Aguero. But those going with some kind of gut voodoo magic are going to captain Aguero. And I've got it's just, Aguero will probably just completely bust the stats apart. And they're going to end up scoring a hat-trick again, annihilate Spurs again, and rub my face in my own stats.
Here's another stat for you. I don't think... So in 6 games so far this season, City haven't beaten a team that's currently in the top 6.
Really?
All season, yeah. I mean, that's 6 games so far. So, like you say, Spurs' defence is looking pretty good. So, he's still Aguero, though. That's always at the back of my mind. He is Sergio Aguero, and he can score when he wants. And he has done since he's been back again now. I mean, who are you looking at captain? I know we're going to discuss this later, but if it's not Aguero, that's the thing. Because for me, it's Lukaku, and then am I sure about Lukaku? I don't know. I still like the thought of Aguero, even though Spurs are looking very good. Certainly won't be selling him.
I just think, as we were talking about earlier, the captaincy is key, and I think. And also, as Jonty mentioned, we have to take risks. I think if we're going to, start getting green arrows again. So I think this could be a case. I've got to play Alderweireld anyway. I think so. I'm going to be backing a Tottenham clean sheet to an extent with that selection. Aguero, if he does score a goal, then I've got him in my team anyway. So okay, I'm going to be 5 or 6 points worse off. I don't see him getting a break. I don't see Skitty scoring twice against that Tottenham defence. And this could be. I could be looking ridiculous in a week's time, but I just don't see it. They might score and Aguero might get a goal, but are they going to get 2 or 3 goals without Silva and KDB, the way they're playing? Don't know. I just don't see it. I think this is the week to go beyond Aguero again, and having failed once, I'm worried about it. And you're right, the candidates aren't obvious, but we're going to talk about our captaincies later in the show. Let's talk defences. Southampton and Leicester, I believe, John T, are on the agenda.
Yeah, let's go Leicester first. So Adam West asks, who's the best Leicester defender? And Japan Boy asks, do we double up on Huth and Fuchs? So, I mean, I've done a little chart of attacking defenders, last 4 game weeks, and yeah, Huth is there. He's obviously doing well. We know that they're getting the clean sheet, so we know that pretty much any Leicester defenders are quite a good bet for clean sheets over the next few fixtures. But Huth is there for shots inside the box, so he's getting a shot inside the box away at least every game. So that's doing well. I mean, Dan is top of that. He's got 7. So Dan's actually performing like a kind of a championship.
Well, he's the biggest Palace goal threat by far, isn't he, at the moment? If they haven't got anything else at all. I mean, you say Leicester's fixtures are good. They're not just good. I mean, the home games are Norwich, West Brom, and Newcastle. From game week 27. And Watford away and Palace away. None of those sides can score goals really at the moment. I mean, that couldn't get much better really defensively, and that's off the back of I think 5 clean sheets in 6. So.
Yeah.
I mean, there is talk about doubling on Leicester, but Andy, you've just got out of that, haven't you, for a good reason?
Yeah, for Vardy and Mahrez double up in attack. Like I said last week, if I could take 4 Leicester players, then I would.
Yeah.
I'm just backing and hoping that Vardy outscores what a double defence would. I actually took a look at the baseline bonus, so the bonus that they get with assists and goals taken out. And this was done up by Boulders, who's a regular on the site. He actually did it for me about 3 hours ago, this table. And Fuchs is the one that's far out in front.
Yeah.
Fuchs is the one. So it looks like if you taking out assists, which I think he's doing pretty well for chances created, he seems to be the one to go for. He's going to mop up the bonus for any clean sheets.
Because it's crosses again, isn't it? He takes dead balls and it's crosses into the box, and we've seen this season fullbacks with crosses are favoured by the BPS system. And of course, Hoof and Morgan have probably got a bigger goal threat, certainly Hoof at the moment. But yeah, I mean, we've both got Fuchs, John T. We're quite happy about that, I imagine.
Well, yeah, I mean, another one of our regulars, Douge, has done another one of his tables, and yeah, top of there for chances created. So he's looking at Leicester in particular. So who's the top creator of chances in all of Leicester's team? So this includes your likes of Mahrez as well, and it's Fuchs. He's up there, right up there. Yeah, I benched him this week. I'm never going to bench. I'm tempted never to bench him again, because yes, he can get those assists, and they're actually getting these clean sheets as well. Absolutely, yeah. I would definitely recommend, if anyone hasn't got a Leicester defender, get one and get probably Fuchs or Huth, depending on how you like your fantasy players. I like a defender who's got a bit of threat about them, a bit of assist potential. But if you're looking for budget, then Simpson's are not going to get you those kind of.
No, the thing is, the Leicester defence has got something for everyone, hasn't it? It's got a 4.1 budget defender. It's got Hoof with his goal threat, and it's got Fuchs with creativity and crosses. That doesn't get much better than that. That is a fine selection of defenders to take your pick from at various points of budget. Yeah, I think you've got to have one. You possibly have two, but I think, like Andy says, you're preparing to have Vardy and Mahrez in game week 27. There's got to be goals in that. The only slight doubt I've got, and people are talking about, Leicester aren't talking about the title, as soon as it starts becoming more of a, I mean, they're favourites now, so to speak, in many people's eyes. Are they going to freeze? Are they going to start locking up? Are goals going to suddenly become hard to come by? I don't know. I just think it's in their DNA. I just don't see Mahrez and Vardy. They're just an attacking team, I think. And even though they have been keeping clean sheets, we saw at City they should have got 4 or 5 goals. And the Arsenal game's going to be fascinating again, isn't it, this weekend? And who's going to bench Mahrez and Vardy if they got them in that one?
I know Andy might have something to say about this as well, because there was one of our posters, Douzra again, on site, caused a bit of a stir. He was claiming that the Leicester can't win because they can't win the Championship because their possession stats are so low. And the possession stats were so low against Man City, who they then destroyed. So lots of people were taking issue with that. I had over 250 comments on that particular thread, just on that one issue. But I mean, Andy was following it a bit more closely. I mean, what was that discussion about with him? What was going on with those stats there? Is Douzra right to be concerned about Leicester?
Yeah, I'm not sure that just basing it on passing alone, and I don't know if that's exactly what he was basing it on, but I'm not sure that takes into account how Leicester are playing right now. So they tend to just, soak up pressure. They don't give away too many good chances, and then they counter-attack, and they do it really, really well. And I think maybe part of the problem with why some of us are doing so badly is because 25 weeks in, Leicester are top of the league, and there's still that doubt in your mind about whether they can keep it up. And I just think, I've watched them a few times now against City, Liverpool, and they're just really good right this season. And maybe it won't happen next season, but that doesn't matter because we're here right now. And, the pressure probably will get to them at some point, and they might start making mistakes. But with Vardy and Mahrez fit and firing, I just don't see why they wouldn't be up there come the end of the season. Do you know what I mean? Their running is just crazy.
I know, this is it as well. The fixtures just fall for them. If they had a big test over the last 12 games, I'd be like, well, yeah, they're going to fall away. But I don't see it. I think they're going to storm. After game week 27, the fixtures are set up for them to just storm it. And then if the gap's going to get any bigger, then that'll be the test, I guess, psychologically.
Yeah. And the thing is, like at the start of the season, they were right up there with the amount of goals conceded, but they were still winning because they were just smashing goals in against everyone. And since then, they've just found a new way to win by not conceding. So they can do it both ways. And like I say, the run is just crazy. I just don't see don't see them going down anyway. Down on the table, that is obviously.
No, so we'll go down this year, that's for sure. Okay, Southampton defence. I mean, this one hurts me because I did think about Van Dijk. I got Matt Targett in a few weeks ago when I got the Aguero and I took the hit. I thought Targett looked a good bet, and then he got dropped for the Arsenal game. Then he got injured, so red flagged. Didn't play at the weekend. I am clinging to hope, though, that he could come back into it, because interestingly, Koeman went back to the 3-5-2. I thought he would after shipping so many chances at the Emirates. But he played Yoshida back there, and then Yoshida got the goal. So Target's no guarantee that he'll come back in. But I've got to hope that at 3.8 my money might still be well spent. But you, Mr. John T, have got the luxury goods, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got him in now, so I don't have to worry about that now. That's a place that I don't have to worry about in my team. Beza asked about this, who to bring in the Southampton defence. So, I mean, let's start off with saying, is it worth getting a Southampton defender in? We know about their form, but fixture-wise, I'd say yes. So they've got Swansea away next, could be a clean sheet. Chelsea at home, could be a clean sheet. Well, Chelsea are playing at the moment. Bournemouth away, Sunderland at home, Stoke away, Liverpool at home. Great bunch of fixtures. They start going varying degrees of blue on our site there.
Yeah.
And then who to get in. So I mean, I just did this is something anyone can do. Just go onto the Fantasy Premier League site, and then when you're on the transfers bit, click by sorted by form. Go on Southampton and just find out who's got the form. I don't know how many game weeks they go back, but it's an average over the last presumably 6 or so game weeks. Van Dijk and Font are the ones really to get. Van Dijk is 6.8. He's averaging, so 6.8 points he's averaging. Font is 6.6, so that's showing they're either getting a goal, assist, or bonus on top of a clean sheet. And then Bertrand's there 6.2. He's about the same price, so it's obvious the other two are slightly better. And then there's Target has been doing well, but yeah, will he play? And then Cedric. Now we've had issues with Cedric. He's been coming off at coming off at 59 point whatever seconds. Hasn't been starting some. I still have a slight doubt about whether he'll start. But he's cheaper, and that's what you pay for. That slight doubt there. So my reply to that is yes, get Southampton player. Get Van Dijk or Font if you haven't got any of them. So
again, though, it's a selection box, isn't it? Because you got Target there right at the bottom end of the market. It was a bit of a gamble. I think he'll get starts again. I don't know if he'll get in next week, but I think there's a chance that he'll come back into the side because I think he likes. But Yoshida, we've seen, is shaky to say the least. I mean, he got the goal at the weekend, so I think he's going to retain his start at Swansea. But I think for the Chelsea game, I wouldn't be surprised to see Target come in and Bertrand slot in the defensive three. And then they've got Cedric, at 4.8, who's the next price point up, who looks like he's nailed on now at last. It looks like we've got some security with him, and he gets in lots of crosses. He's kind of your Fuchs of the Southampton lineup in terms of getting cross balls in, and particularly when they're playing 5 because he's playing wing back. And then you've got Van Dijk and Font who are your goal threats, and I think they're both equal goal threats maybe. I think Van Dijk has got more goals, and he's known to take a free kick or two. So that hasn't happened yet, but it might happen. I think you're sitting pretty with him. I think he's a great option. And unlike Leicester, I think doubling up on Southampton could be the way to go. So you've got Fraser Forster, who's superb, and then you've got Target. So I'm looking at maybe getting Target and supplementing that with another one, because I've got no need for a Southampton attacking player. I'm not going back to Mane in a hurry. I had him for 10 weeks, and it really hurt me. So unlike Leicester, there's no attacking temptations there at all. Now, you were saying earlier, Andy, you think you got the wrong one. You got Bertrand, haven't you?
Yeah, so again, just basing it off the baseline bonus, he's far behind all the other defenders. Actually, Cedric looks to be the best option. He's also better than Bertrand for attacking in the last 4 game weeks as well. So, yeah, I mean, I've got Bertrand. Obviously, there's no point in getting rid of him now he's there. But yeah, if I was going to go on, I'd probably go Van Dijk, I think, if it was me. And I possibly will if I get a free transfer to double up. I'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you've got the money, he's the way to go. And I'm coveting him. I've got a bit of envy there in Jonty's squad with him because I think that's going to come good for you. Yeah, don't like to admit it. Okay, should we look forward to the weekend then, Jonty and Andy? Let's look at clean sheets first of all. We'll pick one each to start with. Andy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I always seem to take this, but I'll go for who's got West Brom at home. So.
It's not a bad start.
Yeah, I can only see a couple this week. I know last week I had loads, but yeah, I think Everton clean sheet against West Brom.
Yeah, I've got to say, I mean, the Everton defence at home has been pretty dreadful. They could have Howard back, could have Stones back. I think Coleman, who scored last week at Stoke, is a good bet there. I mean, no one's got the money for him, I wouldn't have thought. No one's going to throw that kind of money at Everton fullback, but he could be a good differential. Certainly if you're playing any weekly games, Coleman looks a good option over the West Brom. Jonty, have you got one?
Yeah, well, the same as last week. Did work for me last week. Chelsea, I went for. Almost did, but they face Newcastle.
Yeah.
I think they're going to tighten up a little bit. Newcastle have a little bit of swagger about them, but I don't think they'll have enough. And as an Ivanovic owner, I'm backing Chelsea again.
Yeah, Newcastle 6 goals away from home, the lowest in the league away from home, so their threat is pretty dreadful away from home. Zumar's injury low, what do you make of this? Because I've got to admit, on Sunday before the game, I was like, well, maybe my transfer will be to get Zumar back in because Chelsea's fixtures are strong and Ivanovic looks good for you. And I was thinking I should cover that. I should maybe try and get Zumar back. I regretted selling him. Then he gets the injury. Do you think that's going to affect? Because I'm looking at that thinking they're going to miss him. I mean, Cahill and Terry together this season have looked shaky. And I know they're a better side under Hiddink, but are you a little worried by that?
And so we don't know. They said they're better side under Hiddink. We don't know whether the clean sheet's a result of Hiddink, whether he's done something with Zuma. We don't know what he's doing with Cahill. We don't know. All I know is I think if you're going to get a player in, Ivanovic and Azpilicueta are the ones because they do offer that added assist. But in Azpilicueta's case, particularly bonus as well, he does tend to do quite well in bonus. The bonus system likes him. He's a bit of an all-round player, so good defence, bit of attack. I think I'm not particularly worried until I have to be. Yeah, come to me in 3 weeks' time, and yeah, maybe.
Let's just say it put a bit of doubt over my, because I was looking at, as I say, with Zuma out of the equation as Picoletta maybe, but I don't know. I want to see how they do against Newcastle. You'd think that is a banker for a home clean sheet, but I wonder what Zuma's absence will do. He's got pace, he wins a lot in the air, and he's been the dominant defender alongside Terry, and I don't know if Cahill and Terry are quite up to it anymore.
Right.
I've seen them a few times. I worry.
Yeah, I saw the game, and United bossed possession as they have been doing. Probably created the better chances for most of the game, and I think within 2 or 3 minutes of Zuma going off and Cahill coming on, we scored. So whether that's just a massive coincidence, I don't know, but Zuma's been doing pretty well there, so maybe it will have an effect. But with the fixtures and Newcastle at home, I bought in as Picoletta last week, so I'm quite happy to still obviously go with him. Yeah, it could have an effect. Like I say, Cahill conceded pretty much straight after coming on.
Well, okay, third clean sheet for me then. I think there's a couple left. I think I quite fancy Bournemouth against Stoke, the way Stoke are playing, but I don't know if you can trust that Bournemouth defence, but if you own Charlie Daniels, and I know, Jonty, you do, you're going to be pretty confident in that one. And I think Palace at home to Watford maybe as well. I mean, is Dan going to make it 3 in a row? I mean, certainly clean sheet-wise, Watford have been pretty dreadful in attack recently. So I think there's a chance there Palace could pull off a 1-0 or 0-0 result. So, and then even Spurs at City. I've said before, the way City played against Leicester, they just lacked ideas. I think Tottenham are going to watch that game. Tottenham know how to defend. They've got the best defence in the league. If Silva doesn't play as well, I do wonder whether Tottenham can go there and get a shot out as well. I think there could be one there. Okay, Fancy Island risks. Andy, we'll come to you first. Who have you got up your sleeve?
Yeah, so as long as I can go for someone who I've had in recent weeks, I'm going to go. Phobie again for Bournemouth. Didn't score last week, but scored 3 and 3 before that, and Stoke have just conceded 9 in the last 3. So Butland maybe not looking quite as good in the Stoke defence in general without Shawcross. So yeah, hopefully he won't be back.
Having a shocker, aren't they? Absolutely having a shocker. And Butland he isn't a one-man defence. He can't do it on his own. And yeah, you got to back Bournemouth for goals there. I think a Phobie is a great differential for this week, definitely. I mean, what's happening there? We talked about Butland last week, John T, and we said we're going to hold firm because of the fixtures, but we need Shawcross back like a shot, don't we?
Well, I was reading this week that he may even be back for this game. So hold on to your clean sheet hats. He could be coming.
We need it. They're absolutely desperate.
We do need it because I've got Butland and Hennessy. I've got 2 really atrocious defences here. So yeah, that's not so good. Yeah.
Oh, I'm playing Hennessy this week. I'm at Watford. I think, no doubt about it. Okay, Fancy Island Risk. John, to use yours.
Charlie Austin scored recently for Southampton away. So he's suited to that. He's playing Swansea. I think Swansea's defence is quite shaky at times. After Pella hasn't done much really, Shane Long hasn't really done much for a little while. Charlie Austin, I think, may even start, but I think he's a good risk for this week.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, we're hoping it happens. He's another one who could break the template up if he goes on a run, but I don't know, the price put me off a bit. I still think that it could take time. I mean, I think what puts me off with him is that when teams figured out that QPR you stopped Austin, you stopped QPR, they started doing it, and then he came back into form for them. But I just wonder in that Southampton team at the moment how many goals they got in them. They're obviously prioritising defence and they're winning games and it's working for them. I don't think they're going to hit a flood of goals. I don't see many goals in that Swansea game, but Austin can get a goal out of nothing, so not a bad pick. I'm going to go Kasri because I was watching him straight away when he arrived. I've read a lot about him. I've seen some footage of him. I fancied him when he arrived at Sunderland, and straight away 2 assists in the Liverpool 2-2 draw. Looked very lively indeed. I think he's going to be at the centre of everything they do. And I was thinking, well, can I pick a Sunderland player at home to Man United, given that United have got such a solid defence and Sunderland's attack is pretty woeful? But actually, I was looking. Last 6 matches, Sunderland 11 goals. Only Spurs have scored more over the last 6. How did this happen? So Sunderland all of a sudden have got some goals in them. So I'm pretty confident there. And United as well in the last 6, only a single clean sheet. So away from home in the last 6 away games. So I don't think I should be worried. I think Kasri could come out of that with something. And his price is good. 6 million, I think, is a good price for him. I think another one I hope could come along and break the template up or be that differential 5th midfielder that I talked about earlier. So that's the one I'm going with in my Fancy Island Risk. Let's talk about transfers and captains, shall we? We'll start with you, Andy. What are you doing? Are you rolling the dice again?
I think I'm probably going to go back to Aguero. Depends how much I decide that I trust Lukaku over the next week or a few days. So yeah, it'll probably be Aguero or Lukaku, and I expect I'll play safe or boring over Aguero. And then I'm gonna, like I said earlier, I'm gonna just roll a transfer because I've got nothing pressing. Smalling's going to be on my bench, so he's not the worst to come off. So yeah, the team looks okay for this week. Nothing major I want doing, and then obviously the plan is Vardy the week after.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm thinking the same. I'll follow this because I think I will bank my transfer. I mean, I did look at it and think, I've got Moreno. Right, let's talk about this. Moreno is the new Kolarov for me, isn't he? Absolute stat darling. He should be flying in points. He was clean through on goal and shot straight at the keeper. He should have got me something, he didn't. This time last week I talked about going Daryl Janmaat, didn't I? I sat here and I said my transfer is going to be Daryl Janmaat. He got 9 points. I would have had 74 in the game week, which would have been a pretty exceptional game week for me after a load of averages scores. But I went Moreno and he hurt me again. I had him all this season, backed him for the assists and goals, and it hasn't happened, and he let me down again. But I've got to hold on to him, I think, because knowing him, he'll go and hurt me if I sell him. So I'm going to play him and I'm going to bank my transfers. And like you, Andy, I've got to look for Lukaku to Vardy, and then I'm going to try and bring in that differential. I've had Ayew as my 5th mid differential. I'm going to play him probably this week, but that hasn't worked for me, so I'm probably going to look at either Arnautovic, or I might even double on Antonio. There you go. I might go Payet and Antonio because he's got, he's proved it again tonight. He's got goals in him, so that's my tactic. No transfer, and I'm making 2 next week as well. I'm with Andy on that. Jonty, what are you doing? You banking as well?
Well, yeah, I am, and I was just laughing because you're three of our similar people who've been playing this game think exactly the same moves. I'm thinking Lukaku out to Vardy. Okay, a lot of people are thinking that, and I'm looking at Josh King, and I'm thinking who's going to be a good viable 5th mid. Where's Antonio?
Oh Jesus, how did it happen? I'm thinking the same as Jonty. You're more dull than me.
I think
I've come over to the dull side in just ridiculous levels, haven't I? What's going on?
That is the thing. I mean, another good 5th midfielder may emerge. Another thing appeal for Antonio is I'm a bit worried about Payet. He's running around, he's doing all sorts of lovely things. He's not really scoring any points. But if you get Antonio, and then so that means if you're going to get rid of Payet, it's slightly less easy. But I was looking at my assist imminent table, so this is last 4 game weeks. Payet's top of that, and Özil's second, and Özil was top before, and so we know that patience is a virtue there. So Payet against Norwich could be good.
Yeah, I mean he's the captain choice. That he's a maverick one. I mean maybe I need to do something like that. If I'm not going to go Aguero, maybe it's Payet, and that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at Lukaku at home to West Brom because he just loves playing West Brom. I think I just something about that because he used to play for them, and I just think they did look good. Last 2 games they've won 3-0. Everton got goals, and Barkley's turning it on. Lukaku's an option for the captain for me, but Payet is that other maverick choice that I'm tempted by. So I'm not going to go Aguero. I really think I'm not going to go Aguero. So that's my captain. Jonty, what are you doing for the captaincy?
Yeah, similar thoughts as well. Aguero, if I was to go with my gut and believe that voodoo controls fantasy football, I would go for Aguero. But top of my goals imminent table, Mr. Lukaku. One of the things was interesting. He had hardly any shots on target, but then he comes back from his injury. And he suddenly got back up to 4 and 10 shots inside the box. So we knew he was getting the shots in. Now they're on target. So he's back on target. He's got a great fixture. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I've got Lukaku captain. I've got Payet as vice captain. If I feel risky, I'd go Payet. But only because I actually think Payet, because he's a midfielder, so he's got more chance of points. But it's just that fear factor because he hasn't scored so much. But then those that captain Özil this week, going back to the start, they were the ones that did well. So
yeah, I am deeply disturbed that I am thinking on your wavelength. I'm almost tuned in exactly to what Jonty's wavelength is. What is going on, Andy? You're going to go Aguero. That's a safe option. Do you think we're mental not going Aguero? I mean, I've been moaned about him for weeks, and then I got him in, and now I haven't captained him last week, and I'm not doing it this week. What am I doing?
I don't think mental. I mean, I didn't captain him last week because I backed the Leicester defence so much, and this week I'm not. The Spurs defence is good. I just don't know if it's as good. So it will just rest on whether Lukaku is a good option or not. And listening to you two now, maybe he is. Maybe I'm wrong.
Don't listen to Jonty. I've been doing that. Look what's happened to me.
Well, it can't get much worse for me. So yeah, I'll have to see. I mean, we're doing this on Tuesday this week, so there's a few days to mull it over. Might change a few times. Payet, not for me though, just because he's burnt me before captaining him, and I'd just be happy if he gets some points at this point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, before we go, I must say good luck to Eggs Benediction, who knocked me out of the cup. The FBL Cup, this is not the Fantasy Football Scout Cup. I was out of that straight away. But in the FBL Cup, I thought my name was on the trophy. I wasn't quite buying the cup final suit, but I was looking at cufflinks. I was looking at the typing, so I was starting slowly, working my way up to the white suit, the full Wembley affair, thinking my name was on the FBL Cup and that digital camera would be mine. No, as my caption says tonight, I was denied by Czech. I was beating him going into Sunday's games. I had Bellerin, he had Bellerin and Czech, and I think I was 5 points ahead. In the end, Czech's bonus done me. So good luck to his benediction. Maybe he'll go on and win it, but disappointing. I really thought that was going to be my light at the end of the tunnel for my season this year, but it wasn't to be. So good luck to that. I guess you guys are out of the cup as well. Are you still in the Fantasy Football Scout Cup, Jonty?
No, I got wiped out that and the Members' Cup last week. So yeah, good luck to all those who are still in it. Toughest cup competition around.
It's very tough indeed. Andy, are you in it? I guess you are.
So I gonna be bad and say I haven't checked this week. Last week I beat Green Windmill, one of our other moderators.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got through to in the Standard Cup, not the Members one. I'm out of that. So yeah, I might still be in it, but with my score, probably not.
I'll post the results tonight, so we'll see. Yeah. Okay, thanks so much for joining us again, Andy. Thanks so much, John, to another round of community questions. And thanks to the listener to bearing with us. It's been another Scoutcast. It's been a pleasure as always. It's a good night from me.
Good night from me.
Good night from me.
Good night all.